Henry does. Keynote. We're gonna get to that in a bit. But Henry is on the stream. If you're watching him, I got the chance to see him in the green room. I gotta say, Henry, you've and don't take this the wrong way, but you've aged well. Like you look like 30-year-old Henry Burris.
Hey guys, I know I'm about to turn 50 years old, but I still run bleachers. I still get out, and I want to be as active as the guys. I mean, I got to stick with it, man. Father Time's not on my side, so I got to do what I can to slow him down.
Yeah, undefeated, right? They say undefeated. Hey, big news in Riderville today. I guess for a lot of people, we love him. He's had such a great year last year. You said you keep up with the league. Roland Milligan Jr., they extend him to 2026. Any thoughts on that?
Well, that's a key signing because, that man can do it all. Whether it's on special teams, defense, he's a guy, a ball hawk, always around the ball. You can always see those guys that have that intuition as far as what's about to happen, and they always play 2 or 3 steps ahead of the competition. Well, that's one of those young men right there. He's an opportunistic guy, a guy who's caused a lot of turnovers, helped change the momentum on the game, and really keep Rider fans out of the seats. So really acquiring him, keeping him there in Riderville was a big acquisition for the team, and one that's going to help put them in position to get into the playoffs and contend to get back to the Grey Cup.
Yeah, it's it's the window right now, right? Free agency, it's that time of the year. Now, I got to ask you, I think it was 2005, you rejected that Rider offer. You went to Calgary. What can you tell? Was it money? Was it money then, or what was it, Hank?
Well, it was one of those offers where if you would have said no, you'd have been knocking at my door because you'd have been single. Same happened to me. If I would have said no, I would have been knocking at your door to sleep on your couch. The offer was so lopsided in one side. Trust me, when it's a few $100,000 difference, I would do what any man did. So, I got to, like they say, happy wife, happy life. And, you got to go where the money is because the game only lasts so long and you're putting your body on the line each and every day and play. You got to make the money when you get the opportunity too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Hank, too, being obviously a big CFL fan, and back then, did you feel like it made, like, the whole storyline just made it so much more intriguing around the league? I know as a Rider fan, it sort of added that whole other element. We loved Winnipeg coming in here and having that, but now all of a sudden Calgary coming in here was just the same. And really, did you see that at the time? Obviously you saw it, but could you feel the importance it was sort of having as the league? Like, that was a high point in the league for TV, for selling seats, all that stuff. And I think that was a big part of it, was you creating that storyline.
Well, for me, I always say it, and my wife and I talk about this all the time, and Nicole and I will say that in our minds, we experienced the CFL at some of the best times the league ever had, because just how electric those Saskatchewan Calgary games were. I still remember the first time I came back to Regina, the entire place was a buzz. It was a very emotional game. I was crying in pregame, crying during the game, post game. Even though we won, a lot of people we call family and friends were in the stands cheering against us, cheering with us. But even that move right there, you still feel the energy today. Not as much probably when Calgary and Saskatchewan plays, but, it changed the entire mindset and perspective of the league, because people knew when they tuned in and saw the horse on one side going against the Riders on the other side, they knew it was going to be an electric game that came down to the final few snaps to determine who would win. And for me, fortunately enough, I was able to experience that once again when I went to Ottawa and when Hamilton let me go, when I played for the Red Blacks. Those were some key games, to decide who would go to the Grey Cup between the Red Blacks and the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And fortunately enough, we were able to beat Kent and the guys and go to back-to-back and finally get one in 16. But those are some key as far as battles that turn into rivalries that'll never be forgotten about. And trust me, guys, I'll still turn on YouTube and watch those games and be sitting there acting like, man, this game is actually happening live, getting goosebumps and so on and so forth. Unforgettable moments.
I want to get back to the Ottawa thing in a bit here, but I got to ask first off, okay, what was it like? Paint the picture. What was it like growing up in Spiro, Oklahoma? Was football everything, or did you kind of play a bunch of different sports?
Football was everything. You want to talk about the amount of pressure that the starting quarterback felt at Spiro. It's like if you lost certain games, you didn't even go home. I mean, you just might
Yeah.
as well pack your bags, walk to the other sideline, and decide you're going to join that team. But, I mean, that prepared us for the moment. You know what I mean? Understanding the pressures that came with playing the position. But again, the first question they always ask is, what position is your son going to play? They didn't care what the name was. They just wondered where was he going to play on the football team. And if you said the position of quarterback, it's like, whoa, like that's different. It's like you were the next coming. You could walk on water. And so, I mean, football, like if you watch Varsity Blues, that's what football in Spiro, Oklahoma was like.
Awesome. How did you? What do you remember about? First finding out about the CFL and then coming up.
Well, for me, guys like Warren Moon, Conridge Holloway, of course, J.C. Watts, who was a local Oklahoman, those guys helped open the light for me to what the CFL game was all about. I still remember back in the day, the sports channel used to be on down in the U.S. when you had old satellite TV, and I used to tune in to watch the Eskimos and play against Conridge and the Toronto Argonauts, and of course with the as far as the league moving into the U.S. I love the game because they threw the ball a lot. You got to see so many different varieties of formations and motions. They would dress things up so much, but still just run similar concepts all the time. But put some window dressing on it and put lipstick on a pig, but they'd still run the same thing. I love that about the game in the CFL, and that's exactly what you see in the NFL now. All these trickery motions that people are running, and they're saying, "Oh, so and so is the czar of this. He created this." I'm like, You go to the CFL. That's where all this stuff came from. They just don't want to admit it down here.
That's awesome. Henry Burris is joining us here on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. He's joining us thanks to our friends at Events Edge Entertainment and Speakers Bureau. Okay, so you go Calgary, Saskatchewan, then the NFL. Right. And I remember, you remember too, like how proud we were. It was like, although we're, it's Sasky. We were just like so proud that Henry's going down. And then it was Green Bay to Chicago. And we're starting to see, like a Joe signs with Indy last week. And we've had guys go down. For you, Henry, as a quarterback, though, like what was the biggest challenge in going down there? Was it them taking you serious? Was it the rules? Was it the field and the ball? What was it?
Well, when you go from being the guy to not being the guy, it's a totally different feeling. The culture feels different. The approach to use feels different because as a quarterback, you want to feel that you have just that freedom to go out there and give it your all. Whether you make a mistake or not, you can give it your all. Well, for me, it was always a situation where I had to prove myself, where I had to go out there and I felt like I had to be perfect on every play to have that opportunity. Yes, I made every team. I was able to do enough just to crack the squad and be able to dress on game days and so on and so forth. But there was no feeling like the feeling at the CFL gave me when guys said to me that you're our guy, go lead us. That gives you just that feeling that you can go out there and let it fly and not have to worry about somebody looking over your shoulder. Or if you make that mistake, you're riding the pine once again. And unfortunately, I just didn't get that. I know a guy like Nate Rourke, he could probably say the same thing from his feeling.
Yeah.
They just didn't make you feel that way. I mean, guys, quarterbacks were finicky. I mean, we need a little love, we need a little, back pat, a little hug every now and then just to show us that we're your guy. And unfortunately for us, we just didn't get that in the NFL. Look at Peyton Manning. He set the all-time record for rookies with interceptions with 27, 28. But again, he was still able to become the guy because they gave them the opportunity. Just unfortunate that opportunity wasn't extended for Henry Burris. But look at how it turned out for me remaining in Canada and living out my all-time dreams.
Right. And how was it? So obviously tough going to be from the starter to sort of trying to crack the squad. What was it like in terms of workload though and preparation? Like so many more coaches, so much more, focus and time on the field, I would assume. What was that transition like?
Well, sometimes they can overdo it when it comes to the amount of information that you're receiving, but it makes things easier because when it comes to the resources that you have at your disposal, I mean, you got the best of the best. Whether you're using from some people DV Sport, or people understand the, kind of the databases and servers they use to help break down all the information. Of course, now the analytics, whether it's XOs versus DV Sport, you're having information handed to you at this level from every different direction, every person that you come in contact with. You have scouts that go a couple of weeks before each game you have to get signals, get self-scouting reports on individual players and personnel from the opposition. I mean, sometimes it can be overbearing because technically we can see that by watching film. how good, who's the weak link, who's the strong link from a defensive side perspective, that being a quarterback, what's the tendencies from a defensive coordinator, what are some things that we need to prepare for, and got to have it second and long, third down situations if you're a coordinator talking CFL or NFL. But, to me, like you say, it's the Taj Mahal of it all, and you have to accept it, learn how to navigate it and work through it, understand what you need and what you don't need, and find and try to use it to your advantage to help make your career and your journey that much easier and successful.
I forgot about, like, after Chicago, they sent you to NFL Europe. I think it was like Berlin, yes, something like that. And then that kind of just wasn't the right fit. You're like, no, I'm going back to the CFL. I love it. At that point, Henry, did you know that was the end of the NFL dream?
Yeah, I think just my experience when I was over in as far as in Berlin, and just how things were, I told myself at a point, you know what, I'm tired of all this dipsy doodling around trying to find this. For me, I just wanted to play the game, and I loved every moment I was in Canada. From Calgary to Regina, I missed those moments. And I know when I was in Europe, trust me, being able to play football in Europe and play on Fox, that was awesome. You know what I mean? Brian Baldinger, hey, game day, let's get ready to go. But for me, I just wanted to get back to playing ball, you know what I mean? And being able to come back to Canada, where I loved it so much, and having the opportunity to go back to Saskatchewan and be a part of Ryderville and do what we could to get us back to a Grey Cup, get back, join forces with Danny Barrett and Roy Shivers, who gave me my first opportunity to start, and with Ryder Faithful. I look forward to getting back. And then, of course, my wife to be, I got engaged to Nicole while I was, overcoming my rehab for my cartilage tear. But things happen for a reason. I thought once I got hurt, the writing was on the wall. It was time to get back to doing what you love, and that's playing the game in a great country like Canada, and in one of the greatest leagues in the world, in my mind, the best, being the CFL.
DA kind of talked about this. So you when you go back to Calgary and then you come into Sasky and you're kind of public enemy number one, which is awesome. And a lot of guys love that. And they you said how emotional it was the first time you came back, but it seemed like, I remember watching you play when you came back, like you just fed off that. And it was like, yeah, keep it coming. Right. That's probably the case.
Oh, 100%. And honestly, that's still the fuel that ignites my fire today, even being a coach, here in college ranks now, because, each and every time a NFL team signs a guy, or a Power Four college program signs a guy, and I feel I could be the guy, it's just another log on the fire for me. You know what I mean? To continue to press on forward to being the best that you can be, keeping the faith that's been restored in you and given to you by the sacrifice that was made. For me, that's what pushed me. And it was bigger than just people, because I wanted to show younger kids that, regardless of who's against you and who says you can't do it, the naysayers, that anything is possible as long as you continue to have the faith and believe, and that you're there for a reason. But trust me, it was like boulders of logs on the fire when the Rider fans were getting after me, because again, I knew if we didn't beat the Riders 20, 30 years down the road, I wasn't going to hear the end of it. And so, trust me, it was kind of a bittersweet thing when the Riders won in 07 with Kerry. And of course they beat us en route to winning the Grey Cup in Toronto. But the thing was, I loved it because it was Saskatchewan. The fans needed it. The fans deserved it. And, one of my good friends still to this day, Kerry Joseph, was a quarterback. I knew it would be a great notch under his belt to be able to achieve that. And he's still one of my guys I keep in touch with day in and day out today.
Henry Burris is joining us here. Thanks to Brent from Events Edge Entertainment and Speakers Bureau.
So, yeah, Henry, coming back in 05, like for me as a fan of the CFL, I felt that really kicked off sort of this next generation of quarterbacks. We'd gone through a great, I'll call it the Flutie years with McManus, etc. And now, we kind of you came here, and for the Riders coming here in 2000 kind of changed the culture. Now you come back in 05, there's you, Calvillo, Durant gets here, Joseph is here, right? Like that stretch and that, your next 10 years. You had battles all the time, like, and it was must see TV. Like you just had quarterbacks going up against one another. Obviously, the rivalries became more important. All of these games seemed to just be elevated that next 10 years.
Hey, you hit the nail on the head, because every team you played had a dude. And in some cases, you look at Edmonton with both Jason Moss and Ricky Ray, even if their starter went down, they had a guy off the bench that could beat you. And in that case with the Edmonton Eskimos, Jason Moss led them to the Grey Cup and won it in Vancouver back in 2005. So, the thing was, the league was so talented under center at that time. I mean, you had Casey Printers, who was a backup, an MVP in the league, the MOP to Dave Dickinson in DC. So again, sometimes it didn't even matter if the starter was playing or not, but from coast to coast, you had great quarterbacks that were the cornerstones and the faces and the spokespersons for each and every team in the league. And to me, that's when the league was at an all-time high. And now you're starting to get that, the resurrection of some great quarterbacks now that are coming, through the ranks and from different angles, because a lot of times you had mainly Americans back then. And there was definitely a campaign to get more Canadians on board. And now you're starting to see the Curtis Rourkes, who just finished off an excellent season here in the NC2As. You're starting to see quarterbacks get opportunities in the Senior Bowl from the CIS or U Sports. I can't remember what it's called now these days. It changes so much, but
it does.
You're starting to see Canadians take over the game, and for me, that's going to make the game that much better, even better than what it used to be. And so, the quarterbacks are the driving force of that league, and it's great to see that the league is still strong. You got Vernon Adams now in Calgary. That's going to add another notch on their belt and give them a gunslinger, a guy who can make plays with his feet and with his arms. And I see the league starting to resurrect and get itself back to that level because of the movement of the players throughout the given leagues. And now you see that in each and every market.
What do you remember about a young Trevor Harris?
You know what? Trevor was, coming in, he was a great student of the game. I mean, starting out in Toronto, of course, with Scott Milanovic and working with Zach Caleros and working with Ricky Ray. And, you could tell that he definitely had his ears open and his eyes open as well. I mean, he was a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kid. And when he got his opportunities to step in and play, I remember when I was in Ottawa, we're thinking, okay, we're playing against one of the backups from Toronto. We're going to go out there and give it to this kid. Let's go out there and put some points on the board, and we're going to win this game. But all of a sudden, we'd score, they'd score. They'd stop us, they'd score again. I'm like, who in the heck is this kid, Trevor Harris? But, I mean, Trevor, super precision, very professional at what he does, very detailed, super accurate. And, again, he had great pocket movement, and that enabled him, even though he doesn't have that, 4.5, 4.6 speed, just his ability to move from point to point and be able to deliver the ball with pinpoint accuracy shows you that this kid had a great opportunity in the future ahead of him when a team gave him an opportunity. Unfortunately for me, even after going to the Grey Cup in 2015, I got a call saying, Hank, we're bringing in your replacement. It's Trevor Harris. I'm like, oh, great. Here I go with this again. But, if there was any guy who, I thought was, definitely worthy of that, and that's something that I shared with him, even though we still had a competitive edge between us because, again, I didn't want to go out with some punk rookie coming in here trying to take my job. Heck no, that wasn't going to happen. But I still had to show him who was the, numero uno. But again, I knew when that kid got his opportunity, it was going to be hard to supplant him. I'm just thankful that he gave me an opportunity to finish out 2016 and get that final Grey Cup in my final game. And then at that point, he was able to take over and do the great things that he continues to do with the Riders today.
Yeah, that's 16, right? There were some injuries there. There was a lot of criticism around you. You kind of shut some people up. Of all the Grey Cups, this one might be tough to answer. Is that the most special one? Because it seems so vindicating for you.
Oh, 100%. Because for me, it's like everything that I experienced throughout my journey. People saying you can, good Hank, bad Hank, all this crap. You know what I mean? For me, it came down to that game. I was getting old. That's what my body was telling me in that final year. My knee, tearing cartilage in pregame. I broke a finger early in the season. Couldn't hold the ball midway through the season. Lost my spot. It was like everything. It was like a soap opera was going on. But when it mattered the most, the opportunity came for me. And like I say, things happen for a reason, guys. And I could have bitched and moaned and whined, but when the opportunity came back, I continued to support the team. I worked my butt off every day in practice. And when my opportunity came back to take things back over again, it worked out perfectly. And I mean, to me, it was a book the way it ended.
And what a game, too.
Oh, man.
What a game. Talk about the game. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, and really to do it against Calgary and, John Huffnagel and the crew out there, I mean, they were untouchable and nobody gave us a chance. But, back in our corner, we're sitting there like, hey, we're a team that went to back-to-back Grey Cups. We were born for this. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Okay. We only got a couple minutes left here, but I want to talk about what you're doing now. Like you said, we can get to the speaking thing in a bit, but you're coaching. I think it's QB coach, assistant coordinator, Florida A&M, and one of your two boys is playing with you.
Yeah. Well, I just recently got I got promoted to offensive coordinator. Nice. And quarterback coach. I finished off the last two games of the season. I was able to take over and good things happened. And but now, coaching my oldest, Armand, I mean, he made the transition from hockey to football. played a couple of years of football,
Nice.
and it was crazy. He's getting recruited by Florida A&M. He wanted to go to an HBCU, and of course, here we are in Tallahassee, Florida. And then their head coach left and took a job at Duke, and so they called me and said, "Hank, would you want to coach at FAMU?" And I'm like, "Armand." He looked at me like, "Dad, let's do this." And so all those years that I lost with my boys when they were growing up as kids, me playing football all over from Canada, all over in Canada from coast to coast, I have an opportunity to get those years back and make that impression on him and be right here with him to be a part of his growth. And so dream come true, man, being able to do this.
That's cool. Take us quickly through the hockey thing. That's from Canada and then took it down there?
Yeah, so they played hockey, and then once we made the move to Chicago, once I started coaching with the Chicago Bears, they got down here and went to a football game, and they saw all the people in the stands. They were like, "Hold up, hockey, forget that crap. We want to play this." And so and they started playing high school ball in Chicago. And but yeah, my son, he still takes a hockey mentality. He's out there giving her. He's putting people on the boards, but on the field, and he's loving it. He's having a great time down here, and it's a blessing to be able to see him grow right before my eyes.
All right. So if anybody wants to bring you in, Hank, to come and do your talk, your keynote speech, it's called Smile. Just maybe quickly tell people how they can, what they get when you're speaking.
Well, it's all about supporting and motivating people, empowering each other, because again, one thing we need in this world is love and the empathy as far as what it takes to get there, because I assure people that none of us achieve success on our own. And I'm here to encourage people that regardless of through the pitfalls and everything, I'm only here because of adversity and having the right resources in my corner. And I mean, there's enough out there for everybody. I want to see everybody achieve their dreams, achieve those goals. And I always challenge people, if there's one thing you can do each and every day is go out of your way to say thank you to somebody, because, I've lost great friends here lately. Sean Simmer-Simpson in Ottawa, Burke Dales in Calgary. I still remember 2 days before I talked to Bert, and then next, I got a call that, he was no longer with us. And really one thing that this world really needs is people to support each other. We need to love each other, continue to come together, regardless of differences. We need to come together because we are all human beings produced in one way. And I want to continue to spread that gospel because impact is what this world's all about. And that's what I'm here for, because for me, at the end of the day, it was about impacting people from coast to coast in Canada. And for me, that's the number one mark that I felt I was able to help, as far as have a part in. And I want to continue to be a part of that, whether it comes to, older professionals like ourselves or the youth who desperately need it during this time of age.
Well, you look good. We look old, Hank. You can bring them in.
Oh, come on now.
eventsedge.com. Like I said, Events Edge Entertainment and Speakers Bureau. Thanks to Brent for hooking us up. And you can bring Henry in, and he can do a talk, and I'm sure he'll talk football till you're blue in the face. Kendall, last question. We got 20 seconds before we got to wrap. I asked Darian Durant this. We have him on Mondays. I'm going to ask you, what realistically, what could you still give? Could you go a quarter? Could you go a half in the CFL if they really needed?
If I got hit, I might turn to dust. So no, I'm done. I'm good.
Right on, Henry. Thanks so much. People in Sasky, right? They still love you, even though you left, you came back, you left, all that. But it was a pleasure. And hopefully you get to come up and speak, like you said, and spread that gospel. I'm sure it would be amazing.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it, guys. Thank you guys so much for having me on. And I miss you guys back in Saskatchewan. We still call that home.